While I fought for my life in the ICU, my family vacationed in lavish luxury, so I turned their paradise into a lesson they'd never forget. The heart monitor's steady beeping was the only sound keeping me company in the sterile ICU room. Pneumonia had turned into sepsis faster than anyone expected. And here I was, 26 years old, fighting for my life while connected to more machines than I could count. The doctors had been brutally honest. It was touch and go for the first 72 hours. I called my family the moment I was admitted. Mom, Dad, and my sister Bella lived just 2 hours away. I figured they'd drop everything and rush over. Instead, I got a text from Mom. "Sorry, honey, we're at the airport. Hawaii trip is already paid for. We'll see you when we get back." Hawaii trip. This was the first I'd heard of it. As the days crawled by in that ICU bed, my phone became a window into their vacation paradise. Bella's Instagram story showed pristine beaches, Mai Tais, and sunset dinners. Mom posted Facebook photos of herself in a new bikini with captions like "living my best life at 52. Dad shared golf course selfies with hashtags like #vacation-vibes and #paradise found. Not a single mention of their daughter fighting for her life back home. On day 3, when my fever finally broke and I could think clearly again, I sent a group text. "Hey guys, I'm stable now, but still pretty sick. The doctors say I'll be here at least another week. Could someone please come visit? I'm really scared and alone." Mom's response came an hour later. "Stop being so dramatic, Iris. You're fine if you're texting. We'll visit when you pay for our flights home and reimburse the vacation. We'd have to cut short." I stared at that message for 10 minutes, rereading it to make sure I wasn't hallucinating from the medications. Bella's response was even worse, LOL. "Mom's right. You've always been such an attention seeker. Maybe dying will finally make you interesting for once." Smiley face emoji. I screenshot both messages immediately. That's when something inside me shifted. Not broke. Shifted, like a puzzle piece finally clicking into place, showing me a picture I've been too blind to see before. You see, my family had always treated me like their personal ATM. I was the responsible one. The one who went to college on scholarships, worked 2 jobs, got into tech early, and now at 26, I was pulling in a 6-figure salary as a senior software engineer. Meanwhile, Bella had dropped out of community college to become an influencer with 847 followers, and my parents had retired early at 52 and 54 respectively, living off their savings and increasingly my generosity. I've been paying their mortgage for the past 2 years. When Dad's 401k took a hit, I covered Bella's car payments and insurance. I'd given Mom $15,000 for her emergency breast augmentation. I paid for family vacations, holiday gifts, even their grocery bills when they claimed to be tight on money. And here they were on a Hawaiian vacation I apparently funded without knowing it, telling me to stop being dramatic while I nearly died alone. The next few days in the hospital gave me plenty of time to think and plan. I had access to everything from my laptop, banking, investment accounts, all the financial threads I'd woven to support my ungrateful family. First, I logged into my bank account and canceled all automatic transfers to my parents' accounts. The mortgage payment that was scheduled for the 15th, canceled. Dad's car payment, canceled. The credit card I'd given them for emergencies that they used for everything from gas to groceries, canceled and reported as stolen. Then I called my investment advisor Janet, who'd been managing my portfolio for 5 years. "Iris, how are you feeling? I heard you were in the hospital." "Much better. Thanks for asking. Janet, I need to make some changes to my accounts. I want to remove my parents and sister as beneficiaries and emergency contacts on all my accounts." "Of course, honey. Are you sure you want to do this while you're still recovering?" I've never been more sure of anything. Next, I contacted my lawyer, Tom, who'd helped me set up my will and power of attorney documents. "Tom, I need to revoke the power of attorney I gave my parents and change my will entirely. That's a significant change." "Iris, can I ask why?" I told him everything. By the end, he was silent for a long moment. "I'll draft the new documents immediately. And Iris, I'm sorry your family failed you when you needed them most." But I wasn't done. See, what my family didn't know was that I hadn't just been generous with my money. I'd been stupid with it. I'd co-signed loans, put my name on credit cards, even helped them buy their house by going in as a CO borrower when their credit wasn't good enough. which meant I had legal access to cancel everything. I spent the next 2 days methodically dismantling the financial safety net I built for them. The utilities I put in my name to help their credit, service discontinued. The family phone plan they were all on under my account, canceled. The car insurance policy I paid for that covered all their vehicles, canceled effective immediately. The piece de resistance was the house. Since I was on the mortgage, I had the right to demand immediate payment of the loan. I contacted the bank and explained that I wanted to remove myself from the mortgage and that if my parents couldn't qualify for a new loan or pay off the balance, they'd need to sell. The bank was very understanding, especially when I explained I was recovering from a life-threatening illness and needed to secure my financial future. Meanwhile, the Hawaii posts kept coming. Bella posted a video of herself getting a couple's massage with some guy she'd apparently met at the resort. Mom shared photos of expensive dinners and shopping sprees. Dad posted golf photos with captions about retirement life, all while I slowly recovered alone in a hospital bed. On day 7, I was finally discharged. I'd lost 15 pounds and felt weak as a kitten, but I was alive. I drove home to my quiet apartment, ordered soup from my favorite restaurant, and waited. The first call came at 6:47 p.m. Iris. Mom's voice was panicked. "There's something wrong with our credit card. It was declined at dinner." "That's strange," I said calmly. "Maybe call the bank." "We tried. They said the account was closed." "Did you close our credit card?" "I reported it stolen when I was in the ICU and you were posting vacation photos. Seemed like someone else was using it." The line went quiet. Then Iris Marie Carter, "You reopen that card right now. We're stuck in Hawaii without money." "I thought you paid for this vacation yourselves." "That's what you told me." Click. I hung up. Bella called 10 minutes later screaming, "You psycho! You left us stranded. The hotel wants us to pay for another night and we can't." "Maybe ask your new boyfriend to help," I suggested, "the one from the couple's massage video." "You've been stalking our social media. You're sick. I've been watching my family live it up while I nearly died. There's a difference." She hung up on me too. Dad called next, trying to be the reasonable one. "Iris, sweetie, there's been a misunderstanding. We can explain everything when we get home. Can you please reinstate our card so we can book flights back?" "No misunderstanding, Dad. You chose a vacation over your daughter. Live with that choice." The calls continued all night, each one more desperate than the last. I turned my phone off and slept better than I had in years. They managed to get home somehow. I later learned Bella had to borrow money from her Instagram boyfriend and my parents maxed out some old credit card they had hidden away. The real fun started when they got home. Mom called at 7 a.m., the day after their return. "Iris, the power's been shut off and the gas. What did you do?" "I canceled the utilities that were in my name. You're adults. You can set up your own accounts." "With what money? You canceled everything. Figure it out." The foreclosure notice arrived 3 days later. The bank had been efficient. That's when the begging really started. Bella showed up at my apartment first, crying and apologetic. "Iris, I'm so sorry. I was drunk when I wrote that text. I didn't mean it." "Which text?" "The one where you said maybe dying would make me interesting." "That text. I was just joking, you know how I joke. Get off my property." Mom came next with a whole performance. Tears, guilt trips, claims that she'd been out of her mind with worry and had only said those things because she didn't want to face how scared she was. "Then why did you post 47 photos and videos of your vacation while I was in the ICU?" I asked. We were trying to stay positive. Get out." Dad tried the rational approach. He came with a folder of documents showing their financial situation, explaining how losing the house would ruin their credit, how they'd have nowhere to go. "You should have thought of that before you told me to pay for your flights while I was fighting for my life," I said. "We're a family." "No, we're not. Family shows up. Family cares. Family doesn't mock their daughter for nearly dying." The calls became constant, 20, 30 times a day. I blocked their numbers so they started calling from different phones, friends' phones, pay phones, the landline at the motel where they'd had to move after losing the house. Each call was a new strategy. Anger, bargaining, more fake tears, threats of suicide, claims that I was destroying the family. "You already destroyed it," I told Mom during one particularly pathetic call. "I just stopped pretending otherwise." The most pathetic attempt came from Bella's friend Rachel, who called pretending to be conducting a survey about family relationships. 20 minutes into her scripted questions, she slipped up. So hypothetically, if your sister was really truly sorry and maybe wrote you a letter explaining everything, would you consider? Tell Bella I said no, Rachel. And tell her using you as a middleman is exactly the kind of manipulative behavior that got her into this mess. Then there was the attempted ambush at my workplace. Mom and Dad showed up at my office building, somehow talked their way past security and cornered me in the lobby as I was leaving for lunch. Iris, please, just 5 minutes, Dad pleaded, looking haggard and desperate. Mom stood behind him, clutching a tissue and trying to look pitiful. Security, I called to the guard who'd let them up. These people are harassing me. Please escort them out. Iris! Mom wailed dramatically as security approached. I'm your mother. You can't just ignore your family. Watch me, I replied, walking past them without another glance. The security footage of that encounter somehow made its way to my CO workers, who were both appalled by my family's behavior and impressed by my composure. It became something of a legend in the office. The day Iris's family tried to stage an intervention in the corporate lobby and got escorted out by security. My favorite desperate attempt was when they tried to use my hospitalization against me. Bella posted a long Instagram story about how I was mentally unstable after my illness, and that my erratic behavior was a cry for help. She claimed I was having a breakdown and needed family intervention. The post backfired spectacularly when several of my friends commented with their own experiences, visiting me in the hospital, describing how scared and alone I'd been, how they brought me food and books and comfort while my family posted vacation photos. Bella's followers started connecting the dots, and the comment section turned into a brutal roast of her character. She deleted the post within hours, but not before I screenshot the whole thing. The financial pressure on them was escalating too. I learned through Mike that Dad had tried to get a loan using my old contact information as a reference. When the bank called me to verify his employment and income, I was brutally honest about his situation. Mr. Carter is unemployed and recently lost his home to foreclosure, I told the loan officer. He has no stable income that I'm aware of, and I would not recommend extending him credit. Thank you for your honesty, Miss Carter. May I ask your relationship to the applicant? He's my estranged father. The loan was denied, obviously. Around this time, I also discovered that Mom had been telling people I was financially abusing elderly parents, trying to paint herself as the victim of a cruel daughter who'd abandoned them in their time of need. She'd even called Adult Protective Services to report me for elder abuse, claiming I'd stolen their life savings and left them homeless. The social worker who contacted me was professional but clearly skeptical from the start. Miss Carter, we've received a complaint that you financially exploited your parents. Can you help us understand the situation? I invited her to my home office and spent 2 hours walking through every financial transaction, every screenshot, every piece of documentation. I showed her the texts from Hawaii, the social media posts, the timeline of events. So, let me understand this correctly, the social worker said, reviewing her notes. Your parents voluntarily put you on their accounts. You helped them financially for years, and when they chose a vacation over visiting you in the ICU, you removed your financial support. That's correct. And they're claiming this constitutes elder abuse. Apparently. She closed her notebook and looked at me directly. Miss Carter, what you describe isn't elder abuse, it's boundary setting. Adult children have no legal obligation to financially support their parents, especially parents who are capable of working but choose not to. The complaint will be closed as unfounded. As she was leaving, she paused at my door. For what it's worth, I'm sorry your family put you through this. What they did while you were hospitalized was unconscionable. The failed APS report seemed to break something in Mom's psyche. Her calls became increasingly unhinged, full of conspiracy theories about how I was poisoning people against them, how I was orchestrating some elaborate campaign to destroy their lives. You think you're so smart, she screamed during one late-night call that woke me from a deep sleep. But karma is coming for you, Iris. You can't treat family like this and expect to get away with it forever. Karma already came, Mom. It came in the form of a daughter who finally realized her worth. The breaking point came when they tried to contact Tom's family directly, attempting to convince them that I was unstable and that our relationship was unhealthy. Mom had somehow found Carol's Facebook page and sent her a long, rambling message about my mental health issues and concerning behavior patterns. Carol forwarded me the message immediately. It was 3 pages of pure manipulation. Claims that I'd always been difficult, that my illness had made me paranoid and vindictive, that I was isolating myself from family who only wanted to help. Honey, Carol called me that evening. I hope you know that none of us believe a word of this nonsense, but I think you should be aware that this woman is actively trying to sabotage your relationships. That's when I decided to take legal action. I contacted Tom about getting a restraining order against all 3 of them. Harassment, stalking, attempted interference with employment, defamation. You've got grounds for multiple legal actions, Tom advised. But are you sure you want to go that route? It'll make the situation very public. I'm sure they've crossed every line there is to cross. It's time for legal consequences. The restraining order hearing was scheduled for a Thursday morning. All 3 of them showed up dressed in their best clothes, still believing they could charm their way out of trouble. The judge listened to their version first, a carefully crafted narrative about a daughter who'd had a mental breakdown after a minor illness, and was now punishing them for not being able to afford to visit her in the hospital. Then I presented my evidence: screenshots of the Hawaii vacation posts, copies of the cruel texts, documentation of the harassment, the workplace ambush, the false APS report, the attempts to sabotage my relationships. Your Honor, I said, reading from my prepared statement. These people didn't just abandon me when I nearly died, they mocked me for it. And when I stopped financially supporting them as a result, they've spent months harassing me, lying about me, and trying to destroy my career and relationships. I'm asking for protection from people who see me as nothing more than a source of money and are willing to torment me when that money stops flowing. The judge granted a temporary restraining order on the spot and scheduled a hearing for a permanent order. As we left the courthouse, Mom tried one last desperate plea. Iris, please, we can work this out as a family. You don't need lawyers and judges. You made lawyers and judges necessary when you chose harassment over accountability, I replied. The permanent restraining order was granted 3 weeks later. They were prohibited from contacting me directly or indirectly, from coming within 500 feet of my home or workplace, and from posting about me on social media. Violating the order would result in immediate arrest. The silence that followed was golden. But here's where the story gets really good. About 3 months after the Hawaii incident, I got a call from my boss, Mark. Iris, I know you're still recovering and working remotely, but we've got a situation. The client you handled last year, Technova Industries, they want to hire you away from us. Technova was offering me a VP position with a salary that was nearly double what I was making. Stock options, full benefits, and the opportunity to build their entire cybersecurity division from the ground up. They specifically asked for you, Mark continued. Apparently, the security system you designed for them saved them from a major breach last month. They credit you with saving the company millions. I took the job. The transition period was interesting because it coincided with my family's increasing desperation. As I was negotiating my new salary and stock options, they were getting evicted from their motel room for non-payment. Bella called me from a payphone, crying hysterically. Iris, please, we're literally homeless. We're sleeping in Dad's car. Mom's blood pressure medication ran out and we can't afford to refill it. Have you considered getting jobs? I asked calmly while reviewing my new employment contract. I have a job. I work at Target now. 20 hours a week at Target doesn't constitute a career, Bella. What about Mom and Dad? Dad's applying places, but no one wants to hire someone his age, and Mom's too stressed to work. Too stressed to work, but not too stressed to post Facebook rants about what a terrible daughter I am. The line went quiet. They hadn't realized I could still see Mom's public posts. That's different. She's just venting because she's upset. She's defending lies about me to strangers on the internet while claiming she can't work due to stress. The math doesn't add up, Bella. My first day at Technova was everything I'd hoped for. I had a corner office, a team of 12 talented engineers, and a budget that made my head spin. During my welcome lunch with the executive team, the CEO personally thanked me for the work I'd done as a contractor. Iris, I want you to know that your security protocols didn't just save us money, they saved jobs. When hackers tried to breach our system last month, your safeguards held. Without them, we would have lost client data, faced lawsuits, maybe even gone under. You literally saved this company. That afternoon, I got a LinkedIn message from a reporter at Tech Weekly asking to interview me about cybersecurity trends. My success was becoming visible in ways that would have been impossible if I'd still been supporting my family's every whim. Meanwhile, Mom had started a GoFundMe page, help a family destroyed by their daughter's mental illness. The description painted me as an unstable person who'd had a breakdown after being hospitalized and had subsequently abandoned my loving family. What she didn't count on was that I had professional connections in the tech world, and several of them recognized my name from her campaign. They started sharing screenshots in industry Slack channels, not to mock me, but to express outrage at what she was trying to do. Within 48 hours, the GoFundMe page was flooded with comments from my colleagues, former clients, and industry contacts. They shared their own experiences working with me, vouched for my character, and called out the campaign as manipulative fraud. Iris Carter is one of the most professional and competent engineers I've ever worked with. This campaign is disgusting. Senior dev at Microsoft. I worked with Iris on 3 major projects. She is brilliant, kind, and absolutely not the person described here. This is clearly a scam. CTO at Startup Corp. Iris saved our company from a devastating cyber attack. Her family should be proud, not exploiting her online. Shameful. CEO at Data Secure. The comment section became a public testimonial to my character and career achievements. Mom deleted the GoFundMe within a week, but not before several people had screenshot the entire thing and shared it in tech forums as an example of family manipulation. By month 6 at Tech Nova, I was thriving beyond my wildest dreams. I had implemented security protocols for 3 major clients, spoken at 2 industry conferences, and been featured in a Forbes article about innovative women in cybersecurity. The Forbes piece included a photo of me in my office, looking confident and professional. The caption mentioned my recent promotion to VP and my groundbreaking work in enterprise security. Dad called from yet another unknown number after the article came out. Iris, I saw the article. I'm proud of you. Are you calling to congratulate me or to ask for money? Long pause. We really are struggling, honey, just a small loan to help us get back on our feet. There it is. I hung up. The irony wasn't lost on me. As my career soared to new heights, their situation continued to deteriorate. It was like watching 2 trains on opposite tracks, one accelerating toward success, the other careening toward disaster. My social life was flourishing too. Without the constant stress of managing my family's crises, I had energy for friendships, hobbies, and dating. I joined a hiking group and made friends with other professionals who shared my interests. I started taking cooking classes and discovered I actually enjoyed entertaining. When Tom and I started getting serious, I was honest about my family's situation from the beginning. I expected it might scare him off. Most people can't imagine completely cutting off biological family. Instead, he listened to the whole story and said, Iris, what you did took incredible strength. Most people stay trapped in toxic family dynamics their whole lives because they can't imagine another way. You chose yourself, and that's not selfish. It's healthy. His family's reaction was equally supportive. When I nervously explained why my parents wouldn't be at family dinners, Carol immediately said, their loss is our gain. We get you all to ourselves. The contrast was stark. Tom's family included me in everything. Holiday planning, family photos, even arguments about where to go for vacation. They treated me like I'd always been part of the family, while my biological family had treated me like an ATM with a pulse. Around this time, I started getting reports from various sources about my family's continued struggles. Mike would occasionally call with updates not because I asked, but because he thought I should know how my decisions were playing out. Bella got fired from Target for excessive tardiness and attitude problems, he told me during one call. She's trying to restart her influencer career. But with only 200 followers left, most people unfollowed her after that post about you being mentally ill. And my parents, your dad finally got a job at Home Depot part-time. Your mom is working at a call center, also part-time. They're sharing a studio apartment and arguing constantly about money. I felt nothing hearing this. No satisfaction, no regret, just complete emotional detachment. They were strangers now. People I used to know who had made their choices and were living with the consequences. The most telling update came a year later. Mike called to tell me that Mom had been arrested for shoplifting at a grocery store. She tried to steal makeup and some fancy cheese, he said, clearly embarrassed to be sharing this information. When they caught her, she had a complete meltdown in the store, screaming about how her daughter had ruined her life and driven her to this. Did she mention that her daughter was in the ICU while she was vacationing in Hawaii? Actually, yes. She was yelling about how you were being dramatic about being sick and that's why they went on vacation. The store manager's daughter had been in the ICU last year with COVID, and he was not sympathetic to her story. The charges were eventually dropped, but the incident made local news because of her outburst. Local woman blames daughter for shoplifting arrest was the headline that several people forwarded to me. I didn't read the article, but the headline told me everything I needed to know. Even facing criminal charges, Mom was still playing the victim and refusing to take responsibility for her choices. Within 6 months, I was making more money than I'd ever dreamed of. I bought a beautiful house in the hills with a view of the city, got a dog, a golden retriever named Mochi, and started living my life for me instead of for ungrateful family members who saw me as nothing more than a paycheck. The best part, I was genuinely happy. The stress of constantly worrying about my family's finances, constantly being asked for money, constantly being taken for granted. All of that was gone. I felt lighter, freer, more myself than I had in years. I also met someone. Tom, the lawyer who'd helped me revise my will, had asked me out once I was fully recovered. We'd been taking things slow, but he was kind, thoughtful, and respected my boundaries. He was also appalled by how my family had treated me and supported my decision to cut them off completely. You don't owe toxic people your life force just because you share DNA, he told me one evening as we sat on my new deck watching the sunset with Mochi at our feet. A year after the Hawaii incident, I ran into my dad at a grocery store. He looked older, worn down. He was using coupons and shopping the clearance section. Iris, he said quietly, you look good, healthy. I am healthy and happy. I'm glad. He hesitated. I want you to know. I know we messed up. I know we failed you when you needed us most. I don't expect forgiveness, but I wanted you to know that I understand now what we lost. It was the first genuine apology I'd received from any of them. Thank you for saying that, I replied. But understanding what you lost doesn't undo the damage you caused. He nodded sadly. I know, I hope someday you might give us a chance to show we've learned from this. Maybe someday, I said, though I doubted it. But right now, I'm focused on the family I'm building with people who actually care about me. As I walked away, I felt something I hadn't expected. Pity. Not regret for my actions, not guilt for cutting them off, but genuine pity for people who had prioritized money and appearances over love and loyalty, and who were now reaping what they'd sown. 2 years later, Tom and I got married in a small ceremony surrounded by friends who'd become my chosen family, my CO workers, neighbors who had brought me soup when I was sick, college friends who'd driven hours to visit me in the hospital when my biological family couldn't be bothered. Bella tried to crash the wedding. The restraining order had expired by then, and she'd apparently been stalking my social media through fake accounts and found out about the ceremony. Security escorted her out before she could cause a scene, but not before she screamed loud enough for everyone to hear. She's not even really sick. She's just a dramatic attention seeker. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. Here was a woman who had built her entire identity around social media attention, calling someone else dramatic. My new mother-in-law, Carol, put her arm around me afterward. Honey, I don't know what your sister's problem is, but I want you to know that Tom's family is your family now. We'll never let anyone treat you the way she just did. That's when I finally cried. Not from sadness or anger, but from relief. I'd spent so many years trying to earn love from people who were incapable of giving it, and now I was surrounded by people who offered it freely. The final chapter of this story happened 6 months ago. I got a call from a number I didn't recognize, but I answered because I was expecting a work call. Iris, it's your cousin Mike. Mike was Dad's nephew, someone I'd always liked but rarely talked to. I hope you don't mind me calling, he continued. I got your number from your old coworker Janet. I wanted to reach out because, well, I think you should know. Your mom's been telling everyone who'll listen that you abandoned the family when they needed you most. She's been spreading this story about how you got a little sick, and then cut them off financially to punish them for not visiting immediately. My blood boiled. A little sick. That's what she's saying. But Iris, I wanted you to know that not everyone believes her. Some of us remember the photos they posted from Hawaii while you were in the ICU. Some of us think what you did was exactly what they deserved. Thank you for telling me, Mike. There's more. They're not doing well. Bella is working at a retail store and living in a studio apartment. Your parents are renting a room from someone and your dad's working at a hardware store. Your mom? She's been asking family members for money using the same story about how you abandoned them. And no one's giving her anything. Word gets around. You know, people remember how they treated you. After I hung up, I thought about this for a long time. Part of me felt vindicated. They were finally facing consequences for their actions. But mostly I just felt nothing. They were strangers to me now. People I used to know who had made their choices and were living with the results. I never did reach out to them again. I never forgave them or tried to rebuild the relationship. Some people might call that cold or unforgiving, but I call it self-preservation. Because here's what I learned from nearly dying alone while my family vacationed in paradise. Some people will only value you for what you can give them, not for who you are. And once you stop giving, their true nature becomes crystal clear. I learned that setting boundaries isn't cruel, it's necessary. I learned that blood doesn't automatically make someone family and that cutting toxic people out of your life, even relatives, can be the healthiest thing you ever do for yourself. Most importantly, I learned that I deserved better. I deserved to be surrounded by people who would drop everything to be by my side in a crisis, not people who would mock me for nearly dying. Today, I'm 29 years old. I'm married to a man who loves me unconditionally. I have a job I'm passionate about, a home I adore, and a dog who greets me like I'm the most important person in the world every time I walk through the door. I have friends who check on me when I'm sick, who celebrate my successes without jealousy, who support my dreams without expecting anything in return. I have a mother-in-law who calls me her daughter and means it. I have chosen family who would move heaven and earth to help me if I ever needed it again. And sometimes when I'm sitting on my deck at sunset with Tom and Mochi, watching the city lights twinkle below us, I think about that scared, lonely girl in the ICU bed, fighting for her life while her family posed for vacation photos. I think about how she took screenshots of those cruel texts and made a decision that changed everything. And I smile because she chose herself. Finally, after years of putting everyone else first, she chose herself, and that made all the difference. The funny thing about revenge is that the best kind isn't about hurting the people who hurt you. It's about building a life so good that their absence becomes a blessing rather than a loss. They thought losing me would be no big deal. They thought I'd come crawling back, checkbook in hand, begging for their forgiveness. Instead, they lost the best thing that ever happened to them, and I gained the life I always deserved but was too busy taking care of them to notice I didn't have. That's a trade I'll make every single time.